1. We've got a real blast from the past, a 1972 Oldsmobile Custom that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic beauty is sure to turn heads, but let's be real, it's not exactly in mint condition. The seller's asking $8,000 or best offer, so if you're looking for a project car, this might be the one for you. Now, I've got to be straight with you. The seller mentions that this car has been sitting for a long time, and there's rust in the back. That's not surprising for a vehicle that's been around for over 5 decades. But hey, a little rust never scared off a true car lover, right? The ad also states that the motor turns over, but they're still trying to get it to start. So if you're handy with a wrench and don't mind getting your hands dirty, this could be a fun challenge. Just imagine the satisfaction of bringing this classic back to life and cruising down the street in style. Under the hood, you'll find a gas-powered engine, and the transmission is automatic, so that's a plus. The title status is clean, which is always good news when you're buying a used car. In summary, this 1972 Oldsmobile Custom is a project car that needs some TLC, but it's got potential. If you're up for the challenge and have $8,000 to spare, or feel like negotiating, this could be the start of a beautiful friendship between you and a piece of American automotive history. Just remember, when it comes to classic cars, it's all about the journey, not just the destination. 2. We've got a real treat for you, a 1970 Oldsmobile Toronado that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $5,000. This classic beauty has got some serious muscle under the hood, but let's be honest, it's not exactly in showroom condition. First off, let's talk about the powerhouse that is the 425 cubic inch big block engine. With 385 horsepower and a 4-barrel carb that's been recently rebuilt, this thing is ready to roar. The odometer shows 101,000 miles, but with a car like this, that's just proof of its endurance. Now the seller does mention that the Toronado has been modified from stock, with a pickup bed added to the back. It even won an award in the 70s for being a custom car. How cool is that? However, it's important to note that the rear of the car is mostly fiberglass, and there are some cracks present. The brakes have been redone with new cylinders and pads, so that's a plus. The car starts right up, but it's currently non-operational. One of the headlights has been converted to electric but needs to be wired, and the mechanical components for the flip-up headlights need some attention. The interior could also use some love, with a few light bulbs needing to be replaced and the radio not working. But hey, those custom seats are a nice touch. Despite its quirks, this Toronado is still drivable, as long as you don't mind the headlight issues at night. And since it's pre-smog, you won't have to worry about transfer issues. Overall, this 1970 Oldsmobile Toronado is a unique find that's perfect for someone who loves a good project car. It's got a powerful engine, a clean title, and a whole lot of character. Sure, it needs some work, but that's part of the fun, right? If you're up for the challenge and have $5,000 to spare, this could be the start of a beautiful friendship between you and a piece of American automotive history. 3. We've got a sweet ride that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. A 1965 Chevrolet Corvair that's up for grabs on Craigslist. The seller is asking $11,000 for this classic beauty, and let me tell you, it's worth every penny. First off, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that this is a convertible? There's nothing quite like cruising down the road with the wind in your hair and the sun on your face. And with a clean title and an automatic transmission, you can enjoy that feeling without any hassle. Now, let's talk about what's under the hood. The seller mentions that this Corvair has a 110 engine and a Powerglide transmission, which is a solid combination. But what really impresses me is all the work that's been done to keep this car in top shape. We're talking a new battery, plugs, wires, regulator, Petronix igniter eye, engine mount, oil cooler seals, main seal, and harmonic balancer. That's a whole lot of love and attention put into this ride. The seller describes the car as nice, and I've got to agree. From the photos, it looks like this Corvair has been well maintained and cared for over the years. The paint looks shiny, the interior looks clean, and overall, it just has that classic charm that's hard to resist. Of course, with any classic car, there may be some quirks or issues that pop up. The seller doesn't mention any specific problems, but it's always a good idea to give the car a thorough inspection before making a purchase. That being said, with all the recent upgrades and maintenance, I'd be surprised if there were any major issues. In summary, this 1965 Chevrolet Corvair convertible is a fantastic find for any car enthusiast. With its clean title, automatic transmission, and recent upgrades, it's ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever it goes. If you've got $11,000 to spare and a love for classic cars, this could be the perfect addition to your collection. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history. 4. We've got a real gem on our hands. A 1965 Oldsmobile Cutlass that's been cherished by the same family since the 80s. This beauty is up for grabs on Craigslist for $11,000. And let me tell you, it's worth every penny. First off, can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that this Cutlass is in excellent condition? The seller mentions that a lot of time and money has been invested into this car, and it shows. From the newer paint job to the zero rust, even on the original windshield, this car has been meticulously cared for. Now let's talk about what's under the hood. This Cutlass is packing some serious heat with a DG machine-built W30 455 engine and a built turbo 350 transmission. That's the kind of power that'll make you grin from ear to ear every time you hit the gas. And with a 12-bolt rear end and a roll bar, you can be sure that this car is built to handle all that muscle. But it's not just about the performance. This Cutlass has style for days. The black paint is sleek and sophisticated, and the Chip Foose 20-inch wheels add a modern touch to this classic ride. It's no wonder the seller says this car always gets thumbs up wherever it goes. Now, I know what you might be thinking. With all these upgrades and modifications, is this car even street legal? Well, fear not, because this Cutlass comes with collector plates, so you can enjoy all that power and style without any legal worries. The seller does mention that health issues are forcing the sale of this beloved family member, which is a shame. But their loss could be your gain. They're asking $25,000 firm, and while that might seem like a lot, remember that this is a one-of-a-kind car with a ton of history and personality. Plus, with a clean title and a vehicle history report included, you can buy with confidence. In summary, this 1965 Oldsmobile Cutlass is a true collector's item that's been lovingly maintained and upgraded over the years. With its powerful engine, sleek style, and excellent condition, it's the kind of car that dreams are made of. If you've got $25,000 to spare and a love for classic American muscle, this could be the perfect addition to your garage. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history. 5. We've got a real piece of American history up for grabs on Craigslist. A 1960 Ford Thunderbird with a price tag of just $3,750. Now, I know what you might be thinking. With a price that low, there must be some catch, right? Well, let's dive in and take a closer look. First off, let's talk about the good stuff. This T-Bird is packing a 350 UFE V8 engine under the hood, which is a classic Ford power plant known for its smooth performance and reliability. The seller has also made some nice upgrades, including a new carburetor, aluminum radiator, brake booster, master cylinder, brakes, brake lines, and wheel cylinders. Plus, they've thrown in a new wiring system and an electric fan to keep things running cool. But here's where things get a little tricky. The seller mentions that the car needs some work to get it fully road-ready. The blinkers and tail lights need to be wired up, and the heater core needs to be replaced. The interior also needs to be put back together, although the driver's seat has been reinstalled so you can take it for a spin. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the salvage title. The seller is upfront about this, but they also mention that the car has never been wrecked. It's possible that the title status is due to some other issue, but it's definitely something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. As for the exterior, the seller has gone with a clear-coated patina look, which is a fancy way of saying that the car has some natural wear and tear that's been preserved under a clear coat. It's a unique look that some folks really dig, but it might not be everyone's cup of tea. The seller is firm on their asking price of $3,750, and they make it clear that they're not interested in lowball offers. They also mention that you can drive the car home, which is a big plus if you're not local to the area. Overall, this 1960 Ford Thunderbird is a classic car with a lot of potential. It needs some work to get it fully up and running, but the seller has already made some nice upgrades that should make the process a bit easier. The salvage title and patina paint job might be deal breakers for some buyers, but if you're willing to overlook those issues, you could score a real piece of automotive history for a pretty reasonable price. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. 6. We've got a real blast from the past up for grabs on Craigslist. A 1985 Chrysler LeBaron convertible with just 73,155 miles on the odometer. The seller has just reduced the price to $8,500. So if you're in the market for a classic drop top, you might want to act fast. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A Chrysler LeBaron? Isn't that just a fancy K car? Well, yes and no. While the LeBaron did share some underpinnings with the more pedestrian K cars of the era, it was positioned as a more upscale model with a focus on style and luxury. And let's be real, there's just something undeniably cool about a classic convertible from the 80s. The seller describes the car's condition as good, which is always a positive sign when you're dealing with a vehicle that's pushing 40 years old. The LeBaron is powered by a fuel-efficient 4-cylinder engine and features an automatic transmission, making it a breeze to drive around town or on the highway. One thing to note is that the seller doesn't provide a ton of details about the car's history or any recent maintenance or upgrades. That's not necessarily a red flag, but it's always a good idea to ask for more information and get a thorough inspection before making a purchase. The odometer reading of 73,155 miles is relatively low for a car of this age, which could be a good sign that it's been well maintained over the years. The seller also mentions that the car has a clean title, which is always a plus when you're buying a used vehicle. Aesthetically, the LeBaron convertible has a classic look that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The soft top is a great feature for those sunny summer days, and the car's styling has aged surprisingly well over the years. Overall, this 1985 Chrysler LeBaron convertible seems like a solid choice for anyone in the market for a classic drop-top. The price of $8,500 might seem a bit steep for a car of this age, but the low mileage and good condition could make it a worthwhile investment for the right buyer. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. 7. We've got a real gem from the muscle car era up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1970 Oldsmobile Toronado GT Coupe, and the seller is offering it at a huge discount. The asking price is just $10,000, which seems like a steal for a classic ride like this. First off, let's talk about the Toronado itself. This was Oldsmobile's entry into the personal luxury coupe market, and it was a real game changer when it debuted in 1966. The Toronado was the first front-wheel drive car produced in the United States since the Cord 810-8112 in the 1930s, and it offered a unique blend of style, comfort, and performance. The seller describes this particular Toronado's condition as good, which is always a positive sign when you're dealing with a car that's over 50 years old. It's powered by a beefy 8-cylinder engine and features an automatic transmission, making it a blast to drive on the open road. One thing that really stands out about this Toronado is the low mileage. The odometer shows just 45,229 miles, which is incredibly low for a car of this age. That could be a sign that it's been well maintained and preserved over the years. But as always, it's a good idea to get a thorough inspection to make sure there aren't any hidden issues. The seller also mentions that the car has a clean title, which is always a plus when you're buying a classic vehicle. And with the GT package, this Toronado has some extra sporty touches that set it apart from the standard model. Aesthetically, the Toronado has a sleek, muscular look that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The long hood and short deck give it a powerful stance, and the distinctive front end with its hidden headlights is a real attention grabber. Now, the seller doesn't provide a ton of details about the car's history or any recent maintenance or upgrades, So that's something to keep in mind if you're seriously considering making an offer. But if the car checks out and the price is right, this could be a fantastic opportunity to own a piece of American automotive history. Overall, this 1970 Oldsmobile Toronado GT Coupe seems like a great find for any classic car enthusiast. With its low mileage, clean title, and good condition, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And at just $10,000, it's being offered at a price that's hard to beat. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. 8. We've got a real classic up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1962 Buick Wildcat, and it's a beauty. The seller is asking just $8,000 for this vintage ride, which seems like a fantastic deal for a car with so much history and character. First off, let's talk about the Wildcat itself. This was Buick's entry into the full-size performance car market, and it was a real contender in its day. With a powerful 401 nailhead V8 engine under the hood and a sleek, sporty design, the Wildcat was a force to be reckoned with on the street and the drag strip. The seller describes this particular Wildcat's condition as good, which is always a positive sign when you're dealing with a car that's almost 60 years old. They mention that the car runs great and that most of the systems are still working, including the radio, windshield wipers, lights, and power steering. That's a testament to the quality and durability of these old Buicks. One thing to note is that the seller does mention some visible surface rust on the car. That's not uncommon for a vehicle of this age, but it's something to keep in mind if you're looking for a show-quality car. However, if you're in the market for a solid project car or a classic daily driver, this Wildcat could be a great choice. The odometer shows just 65,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. That could be a sign that it's been well maintained over the years, but as always, it's a good idea to get a thorough inspection to make sure there aren't any hidden issues. Aesthetically, the Wildcat has a classic look that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The white paint job is a timeless choice, and the car's lines and curves are just as attractive today as they were back in the 60s. The seller also mentions that the car has classic plates and a clean title, which is always a plus when you're buying a vintage vehicle. And at just $8,000, this Wildcat is being offered at a price that's hard to beat for a car with so much potential. Overall, this 1962 Buick Wildcat seems like a fantastic find for any classic car enthusiast. With its powerful engine, good condition, and attractive price point, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and working on for years to come. Whether you're looking for a fun weekend cruiser or a full-on restoration project, this Wildcat is definitely worth checking out. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. 9. We've got a real gem from the golden age of American luxury cars, a 1973 Lincoln Continental Mark IV, and it's an absolute stunner. The seller is asking just $6,500 for this classic beauty, which seems like an absolute steal for a car in such excellent condition. First off, let's talk about the Mark IV itself. This was the pinnacle of Lincoln's luxury lineup in the early 70s, and it was a true status symbol in its day. With its massive 460cc V8 engine, plush interior, and distinctive styling, the Mark IV was the ultimate expression of American excess and sophistication. The seller describes this particular Mark IV's condition as excellent, and based on the details they provide, it's easy to see why. The car is all original, including the rare sunroof option, and it has just 72,702 miles on the odometer. That's incredibly low mileage for a car that's almost 50 years old, and it's a testament to the care and attention this Lincoln has received over the years. Under the hood, the 460cc V8 is equipped with a rebuilt single 4-barrel carburetor and was factory rated at 215 horsepower and 350 lb-ft of torque. The seller mentions that there are no issues with the engine or transmission, which is always a good sign in a classic car. Aesthetically, this Mark IV is a real head-turner. The silver paint job is brand new, having been done just 6 months ago. and it looks absolutely stunning. The seller does mention that the hood needs to be adjusted to close properly, as some thieves apparently stole the battery and original hubcaps and left the hood misaligned. But that seems like a relatively minor issue that could be easily fixed. The seller also notes that the car has a straight body with no accidents, which is always a plus when you're buying a classic vehicle. And with a clean title and no need for a smog check, this Mark IV is ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever it goes. Overall, this 1973 Lincoln Continental Mark IV seems like an incredible find for any classic car enthusiast. With its excellent condition, low mileage, and stunning looks, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And at just $6,500, it's being offered at a price that's hard to beat for a vehicle of this caliber. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. But if this Mark IV checks out, it could be the classic luxury car of your dreams. 10. We've got a real blast from the past on Craigslist. A 1975 Dodge Dart Swinger, and it's a whole lot of car for the money. The seller is asking just $4,900 for this classic Mopar, which seems like a great deal for a vehicle with so much potential. First off, let's talk about the Dart itself. This was Dodge's entry into the compact car market back in the 60s and 70s, and it quickly gained a reputation for being a reliable, no-nonsense vehicle. The Swinger model added a touch of sportiness to the Dart lineup with its distinctive styling and upgraded interior. The seller describes this particular Dart as being complete and very stock, which is music to the ears of any classic car purist. Under the hood, you'll find the legendary 225 slant-6 engine, which is known for its durability and efficiency. The seller mentions that the engine starts right up and runs great, which is always a good sign in a car of this age. The column-mounted automatic transmission and bench seat are also classic Dart features, and they add to the car's vintage charm. The rally wheels and BF Goodrich radial TA tires are a nice touch too, giving the car a sporty look and improved handling. Now, the seller does mention that the car has all the usual rust, which is something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. Rust can be a real issue with these old Mopars, and it's important to get a thorough inspection to make sure there aren't any major structural issues. However, if the rust is mostly cosmetic, it could be a fun project to tackle as you make this Dart your own. The brown paint job is also a classic 70s color, and it gives the car a cool, retro vibe. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, which is not uncommon for a car of this age, but it's still relatively low mileage for a vehicle that's almost 50 years old. One thing to note is that this Dart is being offered by a small private dealer, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your perspective. On the one hand, you might not get the same level of service and support that you would from a larger dealership. On the other hand, you might be able to negotiate a better price and get a more personalized experience. Overall, this 1975 Dodge Dart Swinger seems like a great find for anyone who loves classic Mopars. With its bulletproof slant-6 engine, vintage styling, and affordable price point, it's the kind of car that you could have a lot of fun with while you make it your own. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. But if this Dart checks out, it could be the start of a beautiful friendship. 11. We've got a real gem from the muscle car era up for grabs on Craigslist. A 1965 Plymouth Barracuda, and it's a beauty. The seller is asking $10,000 or best offer for this classic Mopar, and based on the details they provided, it seems like a fair price for a car with so much potential. First off, let's talk about the Barracuda itself. This was Plymouth's entry into the sporty compact car market, and it was a real contender in its day. With its sleek fastback styling and available V8 power, the Barracuda was a favorite among performance enthusiasts and style-conscious buyers alike. The seller mentions that this particular Barracuda has a 300 CI V8 engine under the hood, which is a real powerhouse. The previous owner apparently swapped it in from a wrecked Dodge Dart, and it's paired with a crisp shifting 904 automatic transmission. The seller also notes that they recently upgraded the carburetor to a Holley Sniper system with an in-tank fuel pump, which should provide even better performance and reliability. One of the biggest selling points of this Barracuda is its rust-free condition. The seller mentions that it was a Southern California car until about 6 years ago, and it shows. There are just a couple of small rust spots on the roofline, but otherwise the body looks solid and straight. The paint is a bit of a mixed bag with lots of bad clear coat from a previous paint job. The car was originally light blue, but it's now a burgundy color with a custom interior to match. It might not be to everyone's taste, but it's certainly eye-catching. Mechanically, the car seems to be in good shape, with just a couple of minor issues. The fuel gauge isn't working, and the previous owner didn't install a speedo gear adapter, so the odometer is broken. But the seller has done a lot of recent work to improve the car's performance and reliability, including a full front suspension overhaul, upgraded brakes, and a new alternator and voltage regulator. Overall, this 1965 Plymouth Barracuda seems like a great find for anyone who loves classic Mopars. It's got a powerful engine, a rust-free body, and a lot of recent upgrades that make it a great driver. The paint and interior might not be to everyone's taste, but they give the car a unique look that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. 12. We've got a real classic up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1984 Chevrolet Corvette, and it's a beauty. The seller is asking just $5,500 for this iconic sports car, which seems like a fantastic deal for a vehicle with so much history and style. First off, let's talk about the Corvette itself. The C4 generation, which this car belongs to, was a major step forward for the Corvette brand. It featured a sleek, modern design, advanced technology, and impressive performance that made it a favorite among sports car enthusiasts. The seller describes this particular Corvette's condition as excellent, and based on the details they provide, it's easy to see why. The car was painted black just 2 years ago, and the upholstery was redone at the same time, giving it a fresh, updated look. The new tires and rims also add to the car's sharp appearance. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 engine with crossfire injection, which was a unique feature of the 1984 model year. The seller mentions that the car is very fast, with its automatic 700R transmission, and that, when it shifts at speed, it almost broke my neck. That's the kind of performance that Corvette enthusiasts live for. The car also comes with a clean Nevada title, which is always a good sign. However, the seller does mention a few minor issues that potential buyers should be aware of. The air conditioning doesn't work, and the system uses R12 refrigerant, which can be difficult and expensive to replace. The trunk is also stuck closed, and the passenger side window isn't responding to the switch. But these seem like relatively minor issues that could be easily fixed by a handy owner. One thing to note is that the odometer is broken, so the actual mileage of the car is unknown. The seller listed as 159,000 miles, but that could be higher or lower depending on when the odometer stopped working. Overall, this 1984 Chevrolet Corvette seems like an excellent find for any classic car enthusiast. With its sleek black paint, updated interior, and impressive performance, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And at just $5,500, it's being offered at a price that's hard to beat for a vehicle of this caliber. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. But if this Corvette checks out, it could be the sports car of your dreams. And with its 40-year history and unique crossfire injection system, it's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. Frani 13. We've got a real gem from the golden age of American automotive design, a 1966 Ford Thunderbird, and it's an absolute stunner. The seller is asking $11,500 firm for this classic beauty, and based on the details they've provided, it seems like a fair price for a car that's been so well maintained and improved over the years. First off, let's talk about the Thunderbird itself. This was Ford's flagship luxury car in the 1960s, and it was known for its sleek styling, powerful performance, and upscale features. The 66 model year was particularly notable for its redesigned front end, which gave the car a more aggressive and sporty look. The seller describes this particular Thunderbird's condition as excellent, and it's easy to see why. The car has undergone over $11,000 worth of maintenance and improvements in the last 16,000 miles, with receipts to prove it. The 390 V8 engine has been rebuilt, and the car has received numerous upgrades, including new struts and shocks, front disc brakes, an aluminum radiator, and a new exhaust system. The interior has also been updated, with newly recovered front seats, including padding, and a new steering wheel. The car also features power steering and brakes, as well as a slide-away steering wheel that makes it easier to get in and out of the car. Aesthetically, this Thunderbird is a real head-turner. The white paint job looks clean and classic, and the lowered stance gives the car a sporty and aggressive look. The seller does note that this is not a show car, but rather a nice cruiser that's perfect for weekend drives and local car shows. One thing to note is that the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage of the car is unknown. The seller listed as 150,000 miles, but that could be higher depending on how many times the odometer has rolled over. The seller is firm on their asking price of $11,500, and they're looking for a local buyer who can pay in cash. They're not interested in trades, tire kickers, or salesmen, which is understandable given the age and value of the car. Overall, this 1966 Ford Thunderbird seems like an excellent find for any classic car enthusiast. With its powerful V8 engine, numerous upgrades and improvements, and stunning white paint job, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And while the price may seem high for a 58-year-old car, the level of care and attention that's been put into this Thunderbird makes it well worth the investment. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. But if this Thunderbird checks out, it could be the classic luxury car of your dreams. 14. We've got a real blast from the past on Craigslist, a 1971 Ford LTD, and it's a classic beauty. The seller is asking $5,500 or best offer for this vintage sedan, and based on the details they've provided, it seems like a fair price for a car that's been well maintained and updated over the years. First off, let's talk about the LTD itself. This was Ford's full-size luxury car in the 1970s, and it was known for its spacious interior, smooth ride, and powerful performance. The 71 model year was particularly notable for its redesigned front end, which gave the car a more modern and streamlined look. The seller describes this particular LTD's condition as good, and they've provided some details about the work that's been done to keep this classic running strong. The car has been fitted with 4 new springs, and the front-end steering linkage and suspension have been completely rebuilt. That's a major plus for anyone who wants a vintage car that drives like a dream. Under the hood, you'll find a 351 cubic inch V8 engine with a 4-barrel carburetor. That's a lot of power for a car of this size, and it should provide plenty of get up and go for cruising down the highway or hitting the back roads. The odometer shows just 44,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a car that's over 50 years old. Of course, it's always possible that the odometer has rolled over or been replaced at some point, so it's important to get a thorough inspection and look for signs of wear and tear that might indicate higher mileage. Aesthetically, this LTD has a classic 1970s look, with a brown paint job that's sure to turn heads. The seller hasn't provided many details about the interior or any other cosmetic features, so it's hard to say exactly what condition those are in. But based on the overall description, it seems like this car has been well cared for and should be a solid driver. The seller is asking $5,500 or best offer for this LTD, which seems like a fair price for a vintage car in good condition with some major mechanical updates. Of course, as with any classic car, it's important to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making an offer. There could be hidden issues or repairs that need to be made, so it's always good to go in with your eyes open. Overall, this 1971 Ford LTD seems like a great find for anyone who loves classic American cars. With its powerful V8 engine, rebuilt front end, and low mileage, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And while it may not be in perfect condition, it seems like a solid and well-maintained example of a vintage sedan. 15. We've got a real gem from the golden age of American muscle cars, a 1964 Ford Galaxy Custom 500, and it's a beast. The seller is asking $12,500 for this classic beauty. And based on the details they've provided, it seems like a fair price for a car that's been heavily modified and upgraded over the years. First off, let's talk about the Galaxy itself. This was Ford's full-size car in the 1960s, and it was known for its spacious interior, smooth ride, and powerful performance. The 64 model year was particularly notable for its redesigned front end, which gave the car a more aggressive and sporty look. But this isn't just any old Galaxy. It's been heavily modified and upgraded to be a true street machine. Under the hood, you'll find a massive 460 cubic inch V8 engine from a 1972 Lincoln. That's a lot of power for a car of this size, and it should provide plenty of tire shredding performance. The engine is paired with a C6 automatic transmission with a shift kit, which should make for smooth and quick shifts. And with a 9-inch rear end and 4.11 gears, this Galaxy should be able to launch hard and run strong at the drag strip or on the street. The seller also mentions that the car has headers and Flowmaster exhaust, which should give it a deep and throaty rumble that's sure to turn heads. And with no rust on the body or underside, and no Bondo or filler, this Galaxy seems to be a solid and well-preserved example of a classic muscle car. Inside, the car has been heavily updated with new seats, carpet, door panels, headliner, and custom gauges. The floor shifter is also a nice touch, giving the car a sporty and modern feel. And with new wheels and tires, and manual steering and drum brakes, this Galaxy should be a blast to drive and show off. The seller does note that the paint is driver quality, with a few scrapes and nicks, but that's to be expected for a car that's meant to be driven and enjoyed. And with all the chrome and stainless trim in good condition, this Galaxy should still look great cruising down the road. Overall, this 1964 Ford Galaxy Custom 500 seems like an excellent find for any classic muscle car enthusiast. With its powerful 460 engine, heavily modified drivetrain, and updated interior, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And while the price may seem high for a 58-year-old car, the level of care and attention that's been put into this Galaxy makes it well worth the investment. 16. We've got a real gem from the 1980s up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1985 Oldsmobile Cutlass, and it's an absolute stunner. The seller is asking $14,500 for this classic beauty, and based on the details they've provided, it seems like a fair price for a car that's been so well maintained and updated over the years. First off, let's talk about the Cutlass itself. This was Oldsmobile's mid-size car in the 1980s, and it was known for its comfortable ride, spacious interior, and classic styling. The 85 model year was particularly notable for its sleek and aerodynamic design, which gave the car a modern and sporty look. But this isn't just any old Cutlass. It's been heavily updated and rebuilt to be a true performance machine. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt 350 cubic inch V8 engine that's been paired with a rebuilt transmission. That's a lot of power for a car of this size, and it should provide plenty of get up and go for cruising down the highway or hitting the back roads. The seller also mentions that the car has a new exhaust system and a lot more in terms of new parts. That's always a good sign when you're buying a classic car, as it shows that the owner has taken good care of it and invested in keeping it running strong. Inside, this Cutlass is fully loaded with top-of-the-line features, including a leather interior and a moonroof. It's also got all the factory options, which is a big plus for anyone who wants a classic car with modern amenities. And with just 42,000 original miles on the odometer, this Cutlass is practically a time capsule from the 1980s. Aesthetically, this Cutlass is a real head-turner, with a sleek black paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The seller also mentions that the car comes with 2 extra sets of wheels and tires, which is a nice bonus for anyone who wants to switch up the look of their ride. Perhaps the biggest selling point of this Cutlass is the 24-month or 24,000-mile warranty on the engine and transmission. That's a huge plus for anyone who's worried about buying a classic car, and then having to sink a lot of money into repairs down the line. With this warranty, you can drive with confidence, knowing that you're covered if anything goes wrong. Overall, this 1985 Oldsmobile Cutlass seems like an excellent find for any classic car enthusiast. With its powerful V8 engine, fully loaded interior, low mileage, and included warranty, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And while the price may seem high for a car that's almost 40 years old, the level of care and attention that's been put into this Cutlass makes it well worth the investment. 17. We've got a real classic up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1963 Chevrolet Nova, and it's a solid project car for anyone looking to get their hands dirty and bring a piece of automotive history back to life. The seller is asking just $3,800 for this vintage beauty, which seems like a fair price for a car with so much potential. First off, let's talk about the Nova itself. This was Chevy's compact car in the 1960s, and it was known for its simple, no-frills design and reliable performance. The 63 model year was particularly notable for its clean lines and classic styling, which have made it a favorite among collectors and enthusiasts. The seller describes this particular Nova's condition as fair, which is a pretty honest assessment. The car runs well and has minimal rust, which is a big plus for any classic car. The 6-cylinder engine and automatic transmission are said to be in good working order, with no smoke or major issues. The seller even mentions that the engine must have been rebuilt not too long ago, which is a good sign for the car's overall health. However, this Nova is definitely a project car that needs some work to get it back to its former glory. The exterior needs a new paint job, and the interior needs some attention as well. The seller mentions that the headliner is new but needs to be finished, which is a common issue with older cars. The car also needs new tires, although the brakes are said to work well. One thing to note is that the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage of the car is unknown. The seller lists it as 100,000 miles, but it could be much higher depending on how many times the odometer has rolled over. Despite its flaws, this Nova has a lot of potential as a daily driver or a weekend cruiser. With some elbow grease and a bit of investment, it could be a real head-turner on the road. The 4-door body style is also a plus for anyone who needs a bit more practicality in their classic car. Overall, this 1963 Chevrolet Nova seems like a great find for anyone who's willing to put in the work to bring it back to life. It's not a show car by any means, but it's a solid starting point for a fun and rewarding project. And at just $3,800, it's a bargain compared to many other classic cars on the market. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. There could be hidden issues or repairs that need to be made, so it's always good to go in with your eyes open. But if you're up for the challenge and have a love for classic American cars, this Nova could be the perfect project for you. 18. We've got a real blast from the past up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1985 Chevrolet El Camino, and it's a sweet ride. The seller is asking $8,000 for this classic utility vehicle, which seems like a fair price for a car that's in good condition and has a clean title. First off, let's talk about the El Camino itself. This was Chevy's answer to the question, what if we combined a car with a pickup truck? The result was a unique and stylish vehicle that offered the comfort and convenience of a car with the practicality of a truck bed. The 85 model year was part of the El Camino's fifth and final generation, which ran from 1978 to 1987. The seller describes this particular El Camino's condition as good, which is always a positive sign. They mention that the car has a 4.3-liter V6 engine and an automatic transmission, which should provide plenty of power and smooth shifting for cruising around town or hitting the highway. One thing to note is that the odometer is broken and has rolled over, so the actual mileage of the car is unknown. The seller lists it as 24,732 miles, but it's likely much higher than that. However, they do mention that the car has its original engine, which is a good sign for its overall longevity and reliability. The seller also notes that the car has a catalytic converter, good tires, and a good battery, which are all important factors to consider when buying a used car. And perhaps most importantly, the car has a clean title and passed a smog check in 2024, which means it should be legal to drive in most states. Aesthetically, this El Camino has a classic look with its white paint job and sporty styling. The seller hasn't provided many details about the interior or any other cosmetic features, so it's hard to say exactly what condition those are in. But based on the overall description, it seems like this car has been well maintained and should be a solid driver. Overall, this 1985 Chevrolet El Camino seems like a great find for anyone who loves classic American cars, with a bit of utility thrown in. With its good condition, clean title, and original engine, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and using for years to come. And while the unknown mileage may be a bit of a concern, the fact that it passed a recent smog check is a good sign that it's been well cared for. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. But if this El Camino checks out, it could be a fun and practical addition to your garage. Just don't be surprised if you get a lot of thumbs up and questions from curious onlookers wherever you go. 19. We've got a real American classic up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1973 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray Coupe, and it's a beauty. The seller is asking $10,500 for this iconic sports car, which seems like a fair price for a Vet that's been well maintained and has some serious performance upgrades. First off, let's talk about the Corvette itself. The 73 model year was part of the C3 generation, which ran from 1968 to 1982 and is known for its sleek, Coke bottle styling and powerful V8 engines. The Stingray was the top-of-the-line model, and it's still highly sought after by collectors and enthusiasts today. The seller describes this particular Corvette's condition as good, which is always a positive sign. They mention that the car has a professionally built, high-performance 327 cubic inch V8 engine, which should provide plenty of power and speed for cruising down the highway or tearing up the track. The automatic transmission is also a plus for anyone who wants a classic car that's easy to drive. One of the standout features of this Corvette is the brand new rally wheels and tires, which give it a classic look and should provide excellent grip and handling. The seller also notes that the paint could use a polish, which suggests that it's in decent shape overall, but may have some minor imperfections. Inside, the seller mentions that the interior is in good shape, but needs a few things. They don't provide any specific details, so it's hard to say exactly what condition the seats, dashboard, and other components are in. However, based on the overall description, it seems like the interior is serviceable and could be easily improved with some minor repairs or upgrades. The seller also notes that the car has a clean title, which is always a good sign when buying a used vehicle. And while they don't mention the exact mileage, the fact that they're asking a fair price and describing the car as being in good condition suggests that it's been well cared for over the years. Overall, this 1973 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray Coupe seems like a great find for anyone who loves classic American sports cars. With its high-performance engine, brand new wheels and tires, and clean title, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And while it may need some minor repairs or upgrades, the seller seems to be upfront about its condition and is asking a fair price. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. But if this Corvette checks out, it could be a dream come true for any enthusiast who's always wanted to own a piece of American automotive history. 20. We've got a real gem from the golden age of American luxury cars, a 1969 Cadillac Eldorado, and it's a beauty. The seller is asking just $6,000 for this classic land yacht, which seems like an absolute steal for a car that's in such good condition. First off, let's talk about the Eldorado itself. This was Cadillac's top-of-the-line personal luxury car in the late 1960s, and it was known for its bold styling, spacious interior, and smooth ride. The 69 model year was particularly notable for its long, sleek body lines and hidden headlights, which gave it a futuristic look that still turns heads today. The seller describes this particular Eldorado's condition as good, and based on the details they provided, it seems like an honest assessment. The car is said to be very straight with no rust, which is a big plus for any classic car. The seats and carpet are described as nice, and the headliner is said to be perfect, which suggests that the interior has been well maintained over the years. The exterior is also said to be in good shape, with good paint, and no signs of any previous accidents or damage. The seller even mentions that the car has new tires, which is always a plus when buying a used vehicle. Under the hood, this Eldorado is packing its original 472 cubic inch V8 engine, which was a real powerhouse in its day. The seller mentions that the car runs and drives, which is always a good sign for a classic car. And with just 38,500 miles on the odometer, this Eldorado has plenty of life left in it. However, it's worth noting that the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage of the car is likely much higher than 38,500. This is a common issue with older cars, and it's something to keep in mind when considering any classic vehicle. Overall, this 1969 Cadillac Eldorado seems like an excellent find for anyone who loves classic American luxury cars. With its good condition, original engine, and low asking price, it's the kind of car that you could enjoy driving and showing off for years to come. And while the unknown mileage may be a bit of a concern, the fact that the car is said to run and drive well is a good sign that it's been well cared for. As always, be sure to do your due diligence and get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. But if this Eldorado checks out, it could be a dream come true for any enthusiast who's always wanted to own a piece of American automotive history. Just be prepared to feel like a king or queen behind the wheel of this massive, luxurious land yacht.